Hey guys, welcome to another video. In this video I'm gonna show you how I make lock extensions for permanent lock extensions. Okay, the hair that I'm using for these lock extensions was purchased from maconstyles.com, and I'll drop the link down in the description box below. But basically this is how the bundles come. They come in this nice little bag, and they're also wrapped in plastic. So I am gonna unpackage it so you have an idea of what the hair looks like. And this was one, I mean, when you order, again, I ordered, I think, 4 of the 2 bundles and 4 of the single bundles. But this is what the hair looks like once you've taken it out of the package. It comes in this big bulk, and as you can see, I separated it, you know, in 2 separate ones. Some of them you could separate them in 3, but usually that's how I do it. I separate them and then I go ahead and portion out the hair that I need to start forming the lock extensions. So that's what you will need. Again, I used the 1B, color in 1B, to form these lock extensions. They have a variety of different colors that you can choose from, which makes it even the more fun, because you could get creative with it if you want a little bit of color in your lock extensions. So you're gonna need that. And I am also using a Susan Bates crochet needle or crochet hook in the size of 1.15. It was a very tiny needle, and I tried to bring it up to the camera so it could zoom in on the number, but that wasn't working really. But I did use a Susan Bates crochet hook in the size 1.15, and I purchased my hooks from Amazon. Alright, let's get on with the tutorial. Okay, so the first step is to take a portion of hair out of your Afro Kilkie bulk, and you want to start with the size that you think it's going to work for the end lock that you're trying to make. At first it's going to be difficult for you to gauge. You will notice that what appears to be more than enough, once you start actually forming the lock, it may actually condense quite a bit and be smaller than you intended. So it takes a little practice, but with practice you're able to better gauge how much hair you need for the size of lock that you want. So once I have taken off the hair, you saw me twisting the hair, and I am also twisting and bending the end of the lock to form a bud. And so once I've created a bud, I am using a Susan Bates crochet needle in the size of 1.15. It's a very tiny pointed crochet needle, and I am using that needle and basically starting to form the lock. Again, here you see me twisting a few times just to make sure that that bud is tight, and I go in with my crochet needle in a back and forth movement. Okay, so that's where you're starting. You're forming the bud and inserting your crochet needle in and pulling out, in and pulling out. That action basically is what forms the lock by allowing the hairs of the lock to intertwine between themselves. And as you can see here, I zoomed in a bit so you could see. Now, you know, you want to keep going that way. And as you can see here, that's a rough form of what the bud looks like. But once you keep going that way along the length of the lock, that's what forms the lock. So here I am zooming in and actually slowing down a bit, because I want you to see not only am I inserting my crochet needle in a back and forth movement, but I'm also twisting and rotating the hair between my fingers. Okay, so it's basically doing 2 actions simultaneously. You're inserting your needle back and forth, pulling it in, and then you're also rotating the hair in your other hand so that the lock, as it's forming in a cylindrical form, and that prevents the lock from being flattened on one side. So just rotating, insert your crochet needle a couple times, rotate again, do the same action, and keep doing that so that you get that nice round shape that you're looking for. And as you can see here, I picked up the pace a bit Now in the beginning, when you're starting to form your lock extensions, it's gonna take a while, so don't be frustrated. It might take you half an hour or maybe even more as well, depending on the length in terms of inches that you're looking to get. Obviously, if you're looking to just get 6 to 8 inch locks formed, it's going to take you a shorter time period than it will take you. I believe I did those lock extensions for about 12 inches, so it took me quite a while when I first started. I'm talking about maybe anywhere from 45 minutes to maybe even an hour trying to do those locks once I first started. But eventually your pace will pick up and you will be able to do quite a bit of them quicker. And so I picked up the pace here, and you could also see that my middle finger had a band-aid on it. That's because when I first started and trying to pick up the pace after a while, I poked myself one too many times with the crochet needle, just trying to do the back and forth movement and, you know, the twisting and rotation of the hair as well. The needle would slip and it would go straight through my cuticle, under my cuticle on my middle finger, and that happened quite a bit of times. So eventually the nail got pretty sore, the cuticle got a bit swollen, and so I had to put a band-aid on it to prevent from further poking. But once you get the hang of it, you're pretty much okay. So I'm just gonna speed right through this, and I will be back to show you how the lock is being formed. Okay, so here I wanted to come back and show you. You will see that I am basically going in a different direction with my crochet needle. That's because after I've formed quite a bit of length in the lock, I usually go back, and once the lock has started taking its shape, and feel where the spots may feel a bit soft. And so where I created the bud to be that the end of the lock was a bit soft, so I went back in and used my crochet needle, but instead of going in from east to west, I am now pulling down from the bud down the length of the lock to tighten it. And so that's what you saw earlier. You saw me pulling from the bud down the length of the lock, and I am just going back in right here and then using my back and forth movement with my crochet needle and crochet hook to basically tighten the lock. Okay, so I am basically gonna keep doing this. As you will see here, the end of the lock is a bit smaller than the rest of the lock, and that's because we've gone back in and tightened it a bit. But I'm gonna keep doing that for the rest of the lock, and I'll be back when I need to add additional hair to continue the length. See you guys soon. Okay, so as you can see, the lock is starting to take its shape, and I am not at the length that I'd like, so I am about to add some hair. So I had already pulled out some hair, and now I am just attaching it. Now you will see that I took the end of that new piece of hair and basically placed it lower down where the lock is pretty much formed, and I am wrapping that around. Now you could choose to do that, or you could choose to just place that hair on top of the formed lock and continue to crochet. I like to place it there and wrap it a bit, so that way it gives me just a little bit of a more secure foundation to continue crocheting and forming the lock. So I just take the extra piece of hair, attached it to the locked part of the hair, and wrapped it a bit around a bit, and just kept crocheting. And you keep doing that until you've reached the length of the lock that you want to form. Okay, so you keep that movement, and you keep attaching here the same way until you've arrived at the length that you want. So again, I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to speed right through it, and then once I have pretty much formed the lock to the length that I wanted, I am going to come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, and so I have basically finished forming the lock to the length that I want, and I am just wrapping it up a bit, you know, adding a little bit more length to it, but I do use like other locks that I've formed. I use those as a guide to make sure that I've reached the appropriate length. So, you know, as you saw earlier in the clip, I had about 3 other locks. So I use those as guides when I think I've reached the end. I basically use those as a guide to make sure that I have reached the exact length that I need. So you see that I'm doing it here. Those are locks that I've previously created. And I leave quite a bit of hair at the end to attach to my hair or the hair for the lock extensions. And so when I'm done, you will see that I am measuring it to make sure that it is about the same length. It might have come out a little bit longer. You may not get them all to be the exact same length, and that's fine. But once I get that length, then I go ahead and just basically cut out the extra hair that I left out at the end. And that's pretty much it. That's, you know, that's your lock extensions. Again, you won't get them all to be the same size and the same length. That's the fun of making your lock extensions. That's the fun, you know, in being creative and doing this yourself. It's what brings out the natural look to those, them being different sizes and being of different lengths. Okay, so here are some of the lock extensions that I completed. Again, you can see that there are a couple there that are a bit much longer than the others, and that's no biggie. One way to work around that is to put the shorter ones towards the back of your head, and then to put the longer ones at the crown or towards the front. That way it gives it like a layer effect. But again, these turned out to be really good in my opinion. I did do them as tightly as possible. Again, they were 12-inch locks that I did, and I believe the size would have been considered small. They were like a 0.5 centimeters, something like that, but they were really soft to the touch, even though they were nicely and tightly packed. They looked real, felt just as real, and I really liked them. I really enjoyed doing those. It took me a couple days to do those. And when I say couple, I'm not just meaning 2. It took me quite a while to do those because I did, you know, a few at a time. But I enjoyed the process of making it. So I thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you did like it and what other videos you'd like to see. You guys will see me in the next one. But until next time, live happy, live rich, and be blessed. Bye guys.